Welcome to our third session around Cleo's Web EDI solution. For today's session, we'll be discussing a feature within the Web EDI solution called Cleo InvoicePay, powered by our partner Kanmon. We do have a guest with us today. I guess this is a good intro into some introductions. Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Wojcik. I am a solutions architect here at Cleo. Been with Cleo for just about 3 years now, but I support our go-to-market teams more from a solutioning standpoint to ensure that the solution that our customers or prospects expect is the solution that we deliver. But I will pass it along to Pat for an introduction here.
Yeah, I'm Pat Gergen. Nice to meet everybody. If I haven't so far, as mentioned on the slide here, I'm the Director of Customer Success for Web EDI customers like yourselves. If we have not met, I'm happy to send my contact information out afterwards and find one-on-one time to connect if there's any larger partnership goals that you think we can be accomplishing within your current partnership with Cleo. So Jason, I'll hand it to you.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Sam. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. My name is Jason Fleming. I am the Director of Partner Development here at Kanmon. We are a partner, a finance partner, an embedded lender, if you will, a fintech company. We partner with Cleo, among other software platforms and EDI platforms out there. And so we have built hand in glove the invoice pay mechanism as an additional feature for the Web EDI users. And happy to discuss that, answer any questions that you folks might have, and avail myself as a resource for you for maybe the financial piece of the puzzle, the working capital piece. So happy to be here.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And that is a great segue. Just want to make a note, the webinar, obviously, all attendees are in broadcast mode, but throughout this session, please feel free to add in any questions. There is a quick Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom interface. If you just hit the three dots where it says more, you will be able to submit questions in the Q&A session. Lastly, this webinar will be recorded. So if there is anybody else at your organization that is unable to attend today, by just registering, you will receive the recording. It will also be posted on our website. But just wanted to make a note of that before we kick things off here.
Yeah, and just quickly before handing it back over to Sam, just did want to run through kind of, again, if we haven't had the opportunity to meet, just the customer success mission statement here. Again, happy to find time to really kind of understand your business more and hopefully kind of continue to scale your business up with Cleo. Won't read you the whole thing, but really just kind of want to highlight the last sentence there, right? We want to build this lasting relationship built on trust, transparency, and growth. So appreciate everybody's time joining today, but I will hand it back over to Sam to dive a little bit deeper.
Perfect. Thank you, Pat. So just before we pass this back over to Jason for some more detail on Kanmon and the invoice pay feature, I will just do a quick demonstration for how to access Kanmon, how you would finance invoices, some of the user permissions around the invoice pay feature, as well as some additional reporting capabilities that are available within the solution. Following this demonstration, again, Jason will do a more in-depth overview of the actual solution and kind of the, I guess, available capabilities to all of the customers using the portal today. And then at the end, we will save some time for questions. So as I mentioned earlier, with any questions or curiosities at all, please feel free to throw those in the Q&A section, and we will get to those towards the end of the webinar. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump over to our demo environment. And today we'll be walking through setting up Kanmon within the portal, how to actually finance an invoice, as well as the options available for financing an invoice. I will also jump into some of our reporting capabilities that tie into the monetary value of goods sold and how that relates to invoices that you can finance, along with some of our other reporting capabilities. And then lastly, I do want to include the permissions options that are available in settings, and how those can be configured on a per user basis. But with that, I will go ahead and just switch my screen really quickly here. I will go ahead and pull up our demo environment. So here we have the Cleo Web EDI home screen for all of our current customers. I'm sure you're very familiar with this screen. This is the initial landing page of the Web EDI solution. But in terms of setting up invoice pay, as we can see here on the left-hand side, there is this little pop-out for Cleo InvoicePay. Now, within our demo environment, this is already configured, but if you have not yet set it up, to access invoice pay will still be in the same section on the left-hand side here of your portal. Just by clicking on this, we are taken to really a high-level screen here of all of our invoice or financing activities. So we can see here just how much financing we've done, as well as our total invoice financing limit. Here we can see our available payment terms. So we have 30, 60, and 90-day options, along with all of the invoices that we have financed. Now, again, this is just a demo environment, so we have yet to finance any invoices that would be showing up within here. But today we'll actually go ahead and show you guys how that would happen. We do have payment information, right? So if we do have invoices that we have financed, those will be showing up here as well. So really, this is kind of your one-stop shop for all of the invoice pay options, along with all the data in terms of those invoices that have been financed. On the right-hand side here, we have access to standard invoicing options. So we would have the associated documents, bank accounts, account details, and notifications. But I do also want to mention that directly within this interface, there is access to Kanmon support. So for whatever reason at all, if you are financing invoices and you have questions or need any sort of assistance from Kanmon, their support is available directly within this interface. So super easy to go ahead and get assistance or get any questions that you may have answered, as this is all available directly within the portal. I don't want to get into any of the specific details that we have set up here, some of the banking information. But again, as I'm sure you guys can infer here, this is where essentially all of the account details, banking information, etc., would be configured. So it's outside of the Cleo UI, but it is available directly within the portal. It's just a new pop-out that we have here. But to go back to the portal, I'll just hit this X in the top right corner. And this takes us directly back to the home screen of the Web EDI portal. So the next thing that I do want to cover is how we would actually finance an invoice. So financing is not available for any documents that have yet to be sent. So if we go into the draft folder, there's obviously not an option to finance any of the invoices. However, in the sent folder, this is where we see the invoicing options be displayed here. So we see the Cleo InvoicePay column here. There's a couple of options. So if I scroll down a little bit, we'll see that these invoices actually cannot be financed because they are older than 7 days from today. So I do want to make that point. Invoicing of or financing of your invoices, there is a time range in which that invoicing option is available. And then we can see here for an invoice that has already been financed, there will be a little notification here. This invoice has already been financed. So when I was in the Invoice Pay UI, and we saw this 62372 number, this is the invoice that it was tied to, this Menards invoice. Again, this is just a demo environment for the sake of today's demonstration. We did restage this invoice just to give you guys an idea of what this process would look like. But if I go ahead and select this finance option, this will take me back to the InvoicePay UI. It will pull up our invoice number. It will have the total invoice amount along with the associated dates. But one neat thing that I do want to mention here is the option to choose how much of this invoice you want to finance. So maybe in some cases, we only want to do a portion of this total order or this invoice, and that is 100% an option. So this field is editable. If there is a specific amount or a percentage that your team would choose to finance an invoice, there is a lot of flexibility here. If we ever just want to submit the entire invoice as it was initially showed, we can just keep that original amount in here as well, 72. And we would just go ahead and submit these details. So after we submit the amount, we see that we have a few options here. The 30 or 60-day payment plan. This can vary depending on, obviously, these sorts of financing terms and agreements that are made with Kanmon. But again, for the sake of this demonstration, I will just choose the 30 days. And we would go ahead and submit this invoice. We'll get one final review of all of the details. So again, there is a bit of a process here. Don't have to worry about clicking on too many buttons and potentially going too fast. And again, if we ever need to edit details, that is an option directly within the user interface here as well. And then lastly, if everything looks good, we would just go ahead and hit confirm details. So again, here we can see status confirmed, we see the amount, and we see the associated invoice number. So if we are passing this data to a backend system via some of our integration capabilities, there is super easy to go ahead and retrieve the invoice number here and go ahead and look for that invoice in whatever that primary record keeping system or ERP system is. But to go back to the portal, there are a few other areas I just want to cover really quickly, that being around some of our reporting capabilities. Specifically here on the fulfillment tab. So really quickly, I just want to mention that, and I apologize, some of our data is old here. But if I go back and I run this report, in terms of all of our orders invoiced, we do have metrics here that we track. So if invoices are automatically going to be financed, we are able to see that total invoice amount here as well. And we can even drill down and see the number of invoices per trading partner. Again, all these reporting capabilities come directly out of the box for the WebEDI portal solution. So if they aren't being leveraged today, I highly recommend that your team takes advantage of this capability for any sort of reporting or analytics capabilities. Again, I do want to mention that all of this information is easily exportable. So we can export information via Excel here for any additional, again, analytics, reporting, or analysis that happens internally. The last thing that I do want to cover is just some of the settings or permission options around the InvoicePay feature. So if I click in the top right corner here and go to settings, under users, if we scroll down here just a little bit, we can see right here there are a couple of settings around the InvoicePay capabilities. So if there are multiple users that have access to the portal, an admin does have the ability to allow or disallow other users from financing invoices. So again, I just want to mention that if somebody is read only, or maybe you just don't want to allow somebody to have that sort of capability, you do have the option to disable users from financing invoices. But that covers our demonstration for today. Again, if there are any questions around what I just covered, please feel free to throw those in the Q&A section, and we will save some time at the end to get to those. Now I'm going to switch back to the presentation and pass it over to Jason.
Thank you, Sam. So he kind of went over the kind of the mechanics of accessing invoice pay, setting the permissioning, how to navigate the portal, how to navigate the dashboard. What I'd like to cover with you all is conceptually, what are we trying to do here? What kind of liquidity, what kind of working capital enablement are we trying to help the Cleo Web EDI customers with? Um, Essentially, it is a product that turns approved invoices into immediate working capital in as little as 24 hours. Get paid today on the invoices that you're still waiting on. So go ahead, next slide, Sam. So on average, if you kind of categorize or study small businesses at scale, small businesses in general, especially if they're B2B, have some level of working capital tied up in somebody else's accounts payable or their own accounts receivable, pretty much across the board. On average, what we have found is that the average business has about 62 days of operating cash trapped in unpaid invoices. And what Cleo InvoicePay does is simply pull that forward up to 100% of an improved invoice in as little as 24 hours. And you repay when your customer pays. And you're able to have a lot of granular control over, when you pay back to ensure that you have the optimum levels of working capital working inside of your business. We like to say that this is a product that has a lot of the features that you might like about traditional invoice financing or factoring, but hopefully a lot of the things that you don't like, or hopefully the things that you hate. So we are not stepping into your relationship with your customers in any sense that matters. It's still your relationship. It's still your invoices. It's still your collection motion. There's no new lenders to chase. There's no lockbox mechanism to set up. We are simply using your invoices to give you immediate liquidity for those invoices when you need it. Because you've done all the work, you've sent out the invoices, and now you typically wait 30, 60, 90, sometimes even longer than that in order to get paid on those invoices. And really, that money should be and could be working inside of the business to cover payroll, building up inventory, and really funding your next big purchase order. Go ahead, Sam. So how it works, Sam already showed you some of it, but at a high level, your invoices are already flowing through Cleo. You pick the ones that you want to turn into cash. If you don't want to turn it into cash, that's totally up to you. There's no minimum fees or minimum usage requirements or anything like that. And you can do that right from your Web EDI account, as Sam showed. Key point here, you can get up to 100% of the invoice value advanced to your bank account in as little as 24 hours. But as Sam showed, you have flexibility. If you need less, take less. You can always tap into your unused availability against future invoices. And this is a very key difference between invoice pay and most traditional invoice financing solutions, where those companies will tend to set an advance rate that's lower than 100%, almost always. Usually it's typically between 80 and 90%, and they will hold 10 to 20 cents on the dollar in reserve. We don't have that problem. We advance you 100% of the invoice value if you want it. So there's no reserve being built, and you have the flexibility to draw what you need. Typically, these other invoice financing solutions are going to charge you fees on the face value of the invoice, not the amount of capital that you actually deploy. That's very, very different from the way invoice pay is set up. From there, you choose your terms, typically 30, 60, or 90 days to line up with when your B2B customer actually pays. And so you're able to get the immediate liquidity, but then also set your repayment terms on a time frame that absolutely makes sense for when they tend to pay. And it gives you a lot of granular control that way. There is one flat fee, the fees that associated with the amount of capital that you pull from your line. There's no setup fees. There's no minimum usage fees. There's no compounding effect of interest. There's absolutely no surprises. Our rates start at 1.77%. That is on the capital deployed, not on the face value of the invoice. So if you take less than that 100% advance, you're only paying, for instance, 1.77% on the amount of money that we actually send to you, not the face value of the invoices that you're pledging. And repayment is automatic. When you set that 30, 60, or 90-day term per invoice, we will automatically debit ACH the account at that date. If you pay early because perhaps you're flusher or your customer paid more quickly, or you just happen to have more cash on hand than maybe you had anticipated, if you pay it off early, we will rebate you the unused portion of the fee, the unused portion of that term. So, simple example, if you select a 30-day term and it turns out you can pay on day 15, we will rebate, once your payment clears, we will refund you half of the fee. This is entirely different than any invoice financing mechanism that I'm pretty much aware of, where you're kind of locked in for whatever that fee was, and they're going to charge it against the face value of the invoice, not the actual capital that is deployed into your business. Again, this is not factoring. This is not traditional invoice financing. We don't notify your customers. We're not buying the invoice. We're not buying the collection duties or anything like that. You keep in total control of that relationship. They're still paying, whatever mechanism they tend to pay into your bank account, and they won't even know that Cleo or Kanmon or InvoicePay is even in the picture. So it's very, very different from most traditional solutions with respect to the relationship with your customers. And if you already have a bank or invoice financing in place that you like, that you're satisfied with, and you're worried about maybe their lien position in your company's assets would prevent you from being able to access something like this, we can provide through Cleo InvoicePay additional liquidity behind existing solutions. So if you've got a line of credit at the bank or an SBA loan and they've got a lien on your receivables and all your company assets, as they typically would and do, but it's not enough capital to finance the invoices or give you the working capital that you need. From our perspective, it's not a problem. We will slot in right behind them, and the access to the additional liquidity is there when you need it. So it's a very, very, nimble product in that respect. And what we find is a lot of customers who have the working capital to a certain point through banks or traditional lenders, or maybe another invoice financing solution, is as they grow their pipeline, they grow their invoices, and they grow their expenses that are associated with supporting that level of sales. Maybe the liquidity they had set up 6 months, 2 years, 5 years ago is no longer sufficient to support that level of sales in your actual working capital needs. Banks tend to be kind of a set it and forget it type product. They're not going to necessarily grow their facilities aggressively with your business. This could be a very good solution for that. Go ahead, Sam. So that's a couple of reasons why you might want to use the product and kind of how it works. There's a couple of other things that we tend to look at. I didn't want to pack the slide with too many ideas, but we really look at it from a standpoint of, most suppliers think about financing as a defensive mechanism, plugging a payroll or a cash flow gap, funding into maybe a bit of an emergency situation, shipment gets lost or gets held up at customs, or there's a payroll gap that you foresee. Totally appropriate use of the invoice pay to cover those inevitable gaps in the business. So playing defense is perfectly fine. But the ones that grow the most from all the data that we have seen really treat this as an offensive weapon for the business. Every dollar you can pull forward 60 days early, for instance, should come back to you as more than a dollar. And so the question doesn't necessarily center around, can I afford the fee, or is this something that I'm eligible for? It's what's the highest return thing I can do with cash that's sitting frozen in someone else's AP for the next 2 months. And so we kind of look at it as two different categories. Are there plays that you can make that will protect or expand your profit margins? Or are there plays that you can make that will grow the top line? So in terms of protecting your margins, a lot of suppliers offer early pay discounts. A lot of your vendors might offer something like 2% off for paying in net 10. That could be a way that you could access some of those supplier discounts. You can become a cash buyer or reduce your reliance on maybe business credit cards. Because every time you put a purchase on a card, your vendor is roughly eating 3 to 4% in merchant processing fees. And whether they itemize it or surcharge it in a line item, you're probably paying to cover that merchant processing fee if you're using business credit cards to make those purchases. So if you can get to sort of the cash buyer environment, usually a lot of the vendors will reduce that fee for you because it's better for them as well because they don't have to cover the fee or increase prices to you. If you've been floating purchases on a business card to bridge the weight on your receivables, that's okay. You should and could do that. You can and should continue to do that when it makes sense. But you're essentially paying twice. You're paying the processing cost in terms of the cost, the merchant processing fee, and your whatever balance you're carrying on interest, usually 18 to 29% APR on the balance that you carry. You're kind of being double dinged for floating purchases on your business credit cards. So having a mechanism like this, an additional source of liquidity, can turn you into more of a cash buyer, can probably protect or maybe even improve your margins. You can buy faster, you can buy bigger. So cash buyers tend to get the best cost of goods sold, bulk pricing, economies of scale, full container orders, off-season buys. These are ways that you can manage your cost of goods sold by becoming more of a cash buyer and having more purchasing power available in your business because the liquidity that's locked up for 60 days is now working inside of the business the way that you want it. So there's some margin ideas that you could use for a product like this. There's also some plays, in our opinion, that grow the top line. Say yes to an order that you would normally turn down. Classic ceiling for suppliers is the big PO that maybe you can't float. You decline it or you short ship it. If you finance your receivables, you can be more of a yes. You can actively hunt maybe some of those larger orders with your existing customers or land new accounts. Use it as a sales tool. If a new retailer demands, net 60 or net 90, you can say yes confidently and win the account. Maybe some of your competitors that you're bidding against don't have that flexibility, but if you have the invoice pay set up, that's something you can really lean into. Maybe fund seasonal buildup of your inventory without maxing out your lines, pull cash forward to pre-build for maybe your peak inventory seasons instead of scrambling. These are just some of the things that you might be able to do with an invoice pay solution that allows you to grow your top line. And so the real pitch isn't necessarily get paid faster. It's put your own cash to work 2 months sooner. And really to make that easy for you, we're going to have this bonus offer or this incentive program that we're launching with this Cleo Invoice Pay is that we will actually rebate you 100% of the fee on your first financed invoice. Sign up within 30 days, finance your first invoice within 30 days after that. Once your payment clears, the full fee will rebate to you on that first invoice. So whether it's a $10,000 invoice or a $200,000 invoice, the first fee is on us as sort of a promo to get you using the product, hopefully create a bit of a eureka moment for you. Go ahead, Sam. Getting started, Sam already covered some of this, but you'll see the pop out. If you're not set up on Invoice Pay already, you'll see the pop out inside of WebEDI. That opens the onboarding kind of application flow. It takes about 5 minutes. You produce some very few basic business details, and then you connect your bank account via Plaid, which is our basically cash flow analysis tool that we use to underwrite the deal. How do we size it? How do we price it? How do we approve it? So on and so forth. There is a soft credit check, so there's zero impact on your personal credit as the business owner. We typically look for a credit score above 620. So it's not a very huge point of emphasis for us. And if it's a soft credit check, so it doesn't count as an inquiry, doesn't ding your score or anything like that. And then typically that's it. Takes about 5 minutes. You'll generally get your personalized offer within 1 business day. And there's absolutely no cost to apply. There's no cost or obligation to take the offer. And if you do take the offer, there is absolutely no cost to not use it. So it's truly there when you need it, and it's something that you can lean into. In our opinion, it makes a lot of sense to get on board with it because it's there when you need it. But if it's something that you can play offense too with it, it's something that you can hopefully use to expand margin and expand your top line revenue. I think that's it, Sam. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I just say if you have a more complicated situation or you want to talk to me, happy to do a consult. I've been in kind of SMB lending and working capital my entire career, over 15 years now. I've looked at a million deals. I've seen every scenario you could possibly think of. So if there's something that you want to bounce off of me, use me as a resource. My contact information is there. We'll send out the recording as well. And I hopefully I can speak to as many of you as possible.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jason. So I know that we are just about at time here. If I'll leave another minute or two just in case any other questions trickle in. But um, again, if there's anything just around clarification, any curiosities, please feel free to reach out to any of us three or your account representative. Any questions directed towards Jason, we will obviously make sure to loop him in. So again, if there's anything at all, please feel free to reach out. Lastly, as mentioned, this recording will be shared in just a couple of days, probably early next week. But again, that pretty much wraps up our webinar today. I do know that we are about 2 minutes over, so I just want to thank everybody for taking some time out of their day to join us. And I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.